So today's topic will be market mechanism, that is your sixth chapter, and over here we'll be talking about the demand and supply forces and its equilibrium. Now first let's talk about equilibrium. What is an equilibrium? A state of situation at which the quantity demand of a commodity equals to the quantity supplied, at which the price is fixed. So what is the equilibrium point? When to demand, like let's say we know that demand is a downward sloping curve and supply is a upward moving curve. So if I ask you what is the equilibrium point, you will be saying the point at which demand is equals to supply, the point at which there is an equilibrium. We get equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity, because we know that this whole x-axis is called quantity and whole y-axis is called price. So the point at which demand and supply force meets each other, at that point the price is fixed and even the quantity is fixed. So that point is called equilibrium point. So that is stated by the definition which is given over here. So a state of situation at which the quantity demand of a commodity equals to the quantity supplied, at which price is fixed. After that we'll be talking about disequilibrium. Then what is disequilibrium? Then the point at which demand is equals to supply, at that point we say equilibrium. So the other points where the demand is not equals to quantity supplied, that point, other points are called disequilibrium. It's simple as that. So after that, let's take a schedule. And we have taken price to be 100, 90, 80, 70 and 60. So we know the price quantity demand, there's a inverse relationship. So when price decreases, quantity demand has to increase. So it is increasing, you can see over here. And quantity supplied, there's a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. We have discussed that in earlier phase as well. So at first phase, let's see, when price was 100, quantity demand was 30 and quantity supplied was how much? 56. So at this scenario, what can I say? What is greatest? Quantity supplied is 56, quantity demand is 30. So can I say there is excess supply? Why? Because there is too much of supply and less of demand. So people are demanding less, but there is more supply. So because of that reason, we say that it is excess supply. Likewise, see over here when it was 90. So when it was 90, even at that point, see quantity demand was how much? 40 and quantity supply was 50. Again we are seeing the scenario of excess supply. But when the price came down to 80, at that point we are seeing quantity demand is equals to quantity supplied. So can I say at this point when the price was 80, we got all equilibrium price as well as equilibrium quantity. At that time the quantity demand was equals to quantity supplied. So that is called point of equilibrium, which we have just stated. After that, when the price moves further down, we see 70 and 60. At that point we have noticed that quantity demand is 55 and quantity supplied is 35. So we see that quantity demand is greater than quantity supply. So people are demanding more of such goods, like let's say petroleum. People demand more of petroleum, but the supply is decreasing. So at that point we can say there is excess demand. So let's talk about the overall phenomena. So when there is excess supply, means you are getting more of goods. At that point what happens? Means the supplier is supplying more, but the demand is very less. At that point the price of that commodity, it decreases till where? Till we get an equilibrium point. And another scenario, when there is excess demand, what happens when there is excess demand? When the people are demanding excess, there is less of supply. So the price of such goods, what happens to the price of such good? It increases. So when you are demanding more, there's less of supply, so a buyer can give any amount of money. So because of that reason, the price goes on increasing. So we have talked about this phenomena. So now let's do it in a diagrammatical way. So we know this is quantity, this is price. You have marked that as x-axis and y-axis as well. So after that, let's see where's your equilibrium point. So at point 80 we got equilibrium point when demand was equal to supply. So this point is your equilibrium point. This is called equilibrium price, this is called equilibrium quantity. After that, what is the phenomena over here then? You see a demand over here and supply is over here. So demand is less, supply is more. So this is called excess supply. And the phenomena down here, the supply is here and demand is over here. So at this phenomena is called excess demand, because demand is more and over here supply is more. So excess supply, excess demand. So remember in this way, when it moves up it is supply, when it moves down it is excess demand. So taking this phenomena from here, the full chapter is based on this theory itself. So if you are clear with this theory, everything will be easy for you. After this, let's do a simple trick over here. So we can conclude excess demand. We can conclude that excess demand, what is excess demand? When price increases, excess demand is price increasing, quantity demand is greater than quantity supplied. So excess demand, when people are excessively demanding such goods. So how to reach that equilibrium point? So let's draw again small diagram. So we know that this is your equilibrium point. So this phenomena over here, up I said it is supply, down I said it's demand. So when quantity demand is greater than quantity supply, it means there is excess demand. So this phenomena. So how to reach this equilibrium point again then? Yes, thing is over here, the price is over here and quantity demand is greater than quantity supplied. Let's take here, this is your demand, this is your supply, demand supply. So at this point, let's say this is 40 and this is 20. So you're demanding more, supply is less. So this phenomenon is taking place where quantity demand is more than quantity supply. So how to reach this point P then? This point P. So in order to reach this P, you need to increase the price. So if you increase the price, so I have mentioned over here, price increases. In order to reach the equilibrium point, what do you need to do? In case of excess demand, the price needs to be increased in order to reach equilibrium. I think it's clear. After that, what if there is excess supply then? Excess supply means the phenomena over here where supply is 40 and demand is 20. Let's say there's more supply, less of quantity demanded. So at this price, the price is very high. So in order to reach the equilibrium point again over here, P, let's mark that P1 and P. So in order to come from P1 to P, what does the market need to do? The market needs to decrease the price. So that is a phenomenon which you need to know from here. So you need to make a label diagram in order to understand that. After that, what we'll be doing is, after that, let's talk about the various kinds of things. Like let's say when, okay, now let's talk about so now let's see. So moving further, let's talk about, let's say a question is asked in this way, find the point of equilibrium when quantity demand is perfectly elastic and quantity supplied moves leftward and rightward. So what is happening? Quantity supplied is moving leftward as well as rightward, and the quantity demand is perfectly elastic. So taking this question, we can just draw and find the point of equilibrium. So we know that in case of perfectly elastic demand as well as supply, in the question they have asked demand, so we know it's parallel to x-axis and it is infinite, we know that. And let's assume that this was the supply curve earlier. So the question has asked, what if this supply curve moves rightward? Rightward means this side. If supply curve moves rightward, so this way, so you see there's the equilibrium, so you have to write when the supply curve moves rightward to S1, what happens is you see that the equilibrium price remains constant. See, equilibrium price is remaining constant. What changes? Earlier, the equilibrium quantity was Q over here, So what did it change? What was the change which you see over here when the supply shift rightward? You see a change in equilibrium quantity from Q to Q1, but the price remains same. I think you understood. After that, the question further asked you, what if the supply curve moves leftward? So we know leftward means another direction. So leftward supply means this way. Supply moved leftward to SO. So at this point, what are you seeing? The equilibrium price is same like what it is over here. What changed? Quantity was Q. What changed? Quantity, equilibrium quantity changed to QO. So this was the change. So when supply moves rightward, equilibrium price remains same. Only equilibrium quantity changed. When the supply moved leftward, what changed? Again, equilibrium quantity changed, but the price remains constant. So what would you do is you need to find on your own, what if there is perfectly inelastic supply when quantity demand moves leftward. Find the point of equilibrium. So how would you find? You can just show me by just doing it. After that, let's move further. So here are the various things, like see what kind of questions will be asked. Explain with the help of diagram how equilibrium price changes when there is simultaneous increase of both demand and supply. So this was the earlier demand, this was earlier supply, this was earlier demand. So what has the question asked? So you can see this is supply, this is demand, which was earlier. They have asked when supply also increases in same aspect and same magnitude, as well as demand also increases in same magnitude. See, supply increased rightward, increase means always remember it's rightward, demand also moved rightward. So when both are changing in a same magnitude, on a same measurement, let's say. So what is the change which you are seeing? The change is, see, this point and this point. Let me draw it properly for you. So this was the earlier equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. They have said that the magnitude of demand and magnitude of supply change in the same way. So when it changes in the same way, what did we see? This price remained same. See, equilibrium price remains same. What changed? Just the equilibrium quantity. Earlier, when it was over here, equilibrium was over here, quantity was Q. What changed was only equilibrium quantity to Q1. So that is a change which you can see. So the question will be asked to you in this way. So let's move further and let's see other questions. When demand increases more than supply, so see, demand is increased more than supply. Demand is more, supply magnitude is less. So what is the change? So you can just experiment it in various way. So if you know one diagram, you can do everything. So just check it out. After that, so now after doing all those things, all those finding the equilibrium, now we'll be coming to the major topic of the same chapter, that is that we call it as price ceiling. Now we'll be talking about price ceiling. Now let's assume certain things in order to understand price ceiling. So we already know the topic name, price ceiling. Now let's understand what is price ceiling. Let's say there's a medicine, cancer medicine, which cost around 20,000. So a medicine is there to treat the cancer and the cost is 20,000. So do you think the poor people can afford this cancer medicine? No, they won't be able to afford the cancer medicine because it's of very high price. So now the rich people can afford it, but the poor people cannot afford it. So what does the government do? The government comes and intervenes over here. The government says that as the price of this is very high, the medicine is very high. I'm just taking an example of medicine as a good. So the government sees that okay, as the price of this item is very high, so what can the government do is the government will lower the price for certain consumers or certain buyers. They'll say that to all those poor section of the society, the price of the same medicine which cost 20,000 will now be costing only 5,000, let's say. So this is a benefit which the government gives. So government is simply playing with the market equilibrium. So now let's understand with the help of a curve. So we know the market forces, demand and supply, how the price is fixed. So likewise the price of that cancer medicine was fixed to 20,000 over here, and the quantity was, let's say, 3. Equilibrium quantity was 3. So you see the equilibrium quantity and the price was very high, so the poor section could not afford it. Now what did the government do? The government just came and said that now the price will be 5,000 only. So 5. So government came and said, the government intervened the market equilibrium, and he said that the market demand and supply forces, the government influenced the market demand and supply forces and made his own decision that the price will now only be 5,000, not 20,000. So when the price will be 5,000, what kind of scenario are you seeing over here? Downwards means excess of demand. People will be demanding excess. Why? Because the price of that medicine has come down, so they will be demanding more. So there's a scenario of excess demand. So this whole phenomena is called price ceiling, where the government comes, he intervenes and lowers the price. For whom does he lower the price? For the society, for all the people to get that product, so that there's equity prevailed in the society or in the whole economy. So we saw that there was excess of demand. So what does this excess demand create over here? So first, consequences. Let's talk about the consequences of excess demand. So you are seeing excess demand where demand is more, supply is less. So how will that shopkeeper sell his product? Either as the supply is very less, as there's only one medicine, but there are 4 consumers, so this whole 4 consumers won't be able to buy this whole medicine. So how will the seller sell his product? Either he'll be selling as seller's preference. What is seller preference? According to the preference of the seller, of the shopkeeper. He'll be selling that one item to any of these four people. So one might get, other three may not get. So that is the seller's preference. So what is the other things by which the seller will be selling his product? Other thing is first come, first serve. First come, first serve. So whoever comes first, he'll get the product. Among these four, whoever comes first to the shopkeeper, he'll be getting the product. So it's like that. So what are the other ways through which this shopkeeper can sell that one item which he has, that one cancer medicine which he has? So it can be anything. Whatever you say, it can be anything. Any kind of example you can take. I just took cancer medicine. So what are the other ways through which he can sell? So other ways can be, so after this, the third consequence of this excess demand can be rationing. Now what is rationing? I think you have heard the term uh, ration card and all those type of words. So let me write it properly. RATION, ration. So rationing. Now what is rationing? Let's say over here the government will say that, okay, as you people belong to lower category income, so we'll be allotting you some cards. So showing that card, you can get the items. So whoever comes from poor class or poor section of a society, they can easily avail to that product. Why? Because government has given them that identity of that rationing. So according to that only they can get this product over here. So from here, from this rationing, they can separate the higher class and lower class, and lower class can avail to all those opportunities which the government has done. After this, what can we do is, you can just read it through over here. So first come, first serve, allocation of seller preference, rationing. So everything is given over here, and the price ceiling proper diagram. After this, let's talk about this emergence of black marketing. Now this is the major thing. How does a black marketing involve? Now we all are aware that what is black marketing and all those things of so what is black marketing? So now we saw there was less of supply and more of demand. So what does that cause? That cause that few people cannot buy that product at 5,000. The price was fixed at 5,000. So few people out of that four, only one people got that product at 5,000. The other three could not get that product at 5,000. So there'll be a hoarding. Hoarding means the main shopkeeper will keep that product, will hide his product, and he will say that he doesn't have the product anymore. Why he's doing that? To sell this three consumers at a higher price than that of 5,000. So what does that shopkeeper do? He'll say that as I don't have the product, I'll just give you the same product at 10,000 rather than 15,000. So that is black marketing, and that is how it emerges, by hiding the product and selling it at higher price at which the government has decided more than that. So we have just shown it over here. You can just read it over here. Emergence of black marketing, how the illegal practices is done. Black marketing is a market in which goods are sold illegally at a price higher than legally fixed by the government. So government had fixed 5,000, but they are selling it illegally at more prices. That is black marketing. So doing all those things. Now let's come to the question. What kind of question will be asked? So the question will be asked in this way. They'll say, what is maximum price legislation or price ceiling? Both mean same. Maximum price legislation and price ceiling. Don't get confused. If they ask you maximum price legislation, also price ceiling, also you have to write the same answer. Another name for that is maximum price legislation. Is a method when government sets a legal price. So just read it through. This is the perfect answer for your ISC questions. This would be of 3 marks. So just read it through over here. Whatever we have discussed is just given with the help of an example. Just try understanding it from here. After this, now what is the other aspect? Let's talk about another system. So another system over here will be floor pricing. Floor pricing. So now let's understand this topic of floor pricing. So if we see this properly, what is floor pricing? Let's look at the aspect over here. Floor pricing refers to, before doing this, let's understand it properly, then let's move it further. So let's say now the scenario is there was an equilibrium, demand and supply, and this was the equilibrium point. This happens mostly because of over here producers. Now let's say farmer. A farmer sowed a crop, let's say rice. The expenses he incurred in that production of that rice was, let's say, 5 rupees. But the price, because it's market price, whatever he got was just 4 rupees. So he's bearing a loss of 1 rupee, which we can clearly see. So he is not getting the sufficient money to prevail his earning for his living. So what does the government do now over here? The government will say, as the farmer is getting very low price for the product which he has produced, the government will say that I don't follow the market equilibrium. The new price, I'll be setting the new price. The new price will be rupees 8. So this is done for the benefit of the producer. So earlier price setting was done for the benefit of the consumer. For the consumer's preference it was done. Over here for producer, the government just increases the price to motivate him. So the government will just come and say that okay, now the new price will be 8 rupees. It won't be anymore 4 rupees. So that is the intervention. Two ways of intervention which the government does. One is by price ceiling, another one is by floor pricing. So after this, what happens is you see a scenario of, what kind of scenario you see? Excess supply. Now there is more of supply because the farmers are willing to sell all the crops, so there is more of supply and less of demand. Why less of demand? Because the whoever will buy that product from that crops or that rice, they'll say that the price is very high, why should we buy it? So because of that reason the demand will be very less, but the supply will be more. Now how will the government tackle this? The government will say, okay, as no one is willing to buy it at 8 rupees, the government will say, I myself, the government of India will themselves buy all the crops from that farmer at rupees 8. The government might say like that, I'll be buying everything from you at rupees 8. So looking at that scenario, the private businessmen, the consumers, they'll be saying, as the farmers are selling the crops at 8 rupees, next year if you buy the same crop from the government, the same crop price, the government might be charging us might be 10 rupees. So why not we buy it at 8 rupees? So that is how the farmers will say that okay, now we are ready to buy at 8 rupees itself. Rather than the government buys, we ourselves will buy it at 8 rupees. The producer, the consumers will be saying, and in that way that excess supply scenario will be solved. So that is the role of government over here. So if this doesn't happen, if the private businessmen or consumers say that no, we won't be buying it, so the government buys at 8 rupees all the crops, all the things, all the rice, and he will be keeping it as buffer stock. So I have bought a new term over here, buffer stock. So what is a buffer stock? Means stocking a kind of goods. Stocking means keeping a type of goods with the government itself in order to sell it in coming years. So this is how floor pricing works. So I think you got the difference in price ceiling and floor pricing. So now let's understand what is floor pricing from here. Floor pricing refers to the minimum price, the minimum price of a commodity which is fixed by the government. So another name for it, minimum price legislation. That was maximum, this is minimum price legislation of a commodity which is fixed by the government, which should be paid. So you can see, you can just refer it, what are the impacts on producers. So in this way you have to write your answer. So you can just refer to this. If you are still not clear, you can simply come over here. So over here, if you just go through it in detail, you can just understand it.